Thomas Angelo is one of the most well-known characters in the world of video games and the main protagonist of the Mafia, the city of Lost Heaven. His story is a captivating journey from a simple taxi driver to a prominent member of the Mafia world, filled with challenges, moral dilemmas, and dramatic events. Thomas Angelo's story begins on the 30th of September 1930, when he unexpectedly becomes a savior for two members of Don Salieri's family, Polly and Sam. These events lay the foundation for his future and bring him partners and friends. After his heroic act, Tom receives a reward that far exceeds his expectations. Enough money not only to repair his car but also to improve his situation significantly. Soon after, Thomas is tracked down and brutally beaten by Don Morello's men, Salieri's rival. However, thanks to his cleverness, he managed to escape danger. In search of protection, Thomas remembers Don Salieri and, having no other choice, becomes part of the Mafia organization. This twist of fate changes his life forever, introducing him to a dangerous world ruled by money, violence, and the laws of the Mafia. Laws incomprehensible to ordinary decent people who have led modest lives until then. In my opinion, the story of Thomas Angelo goes beyond the standard rise and fall narrative, evolving into a deep analysis of moral choices and the influence of environment on personality. Let's try to understand what personality traits influenced Thomas Angelo's moral decisions. Why did he behave the way he did? Temperament. I believe our protagonist exhibits predominantly phlegmatic traits. Tom is calm, non-confrontational, balanced, and rather slow in decision-making. It's hard to call him decisive. He didn't have a wide cycle of friends, but he had at least one loyal friend with whom he managed to build a strong and lasting relationship. He enjoyed working as a local taxi driver in the city of Lost Heaven, where he knew all the neighborhoods well and had grown accustomed to the temperaments and personalities of the local population. He never complains about this life in the game. As someone with a phlegmatic temperament, Thomas was quite content with his circumstances. He never engaged in extreme activities in his job. At most, a passenger might ask him to hurry, occasionally requiring minor traffic rule violations. When he becomes a full-fledged member of the Mafia, his temperament reveals itself in situations that require quick and effective decision-making. He hesitates to act in critical moments, taking too long to make final decisions, something Sam reminds him of at the end of the game. However, as he gradually becomes more involved in the workings of the Salieri family, he adapts to the extreme nature of the job. Working in the Mafia does not bring Thomas any real satisfaction. Because of the immoral acts he is forced to commit, he nearly becomes an alcoholic, struggling to understand how he is still alive after completing a series of dangerous missions. Thanks to Frank, he manages to escape this downward spiral. He works for Salieri only because he has no other choice and wants to protect his life. Plus, Salieri pays well. Tom originally thought he would just be a driver for Don Salieri, but fate had other plans. Demonstrating reliability and discipline, Don entrusts him with increasingly difficult tasks, which Tom doesn't enjoy, even failing some of them, such as allowing Sarah's friend to escape the city. She is eventually found and killed. Later, the same fate befalls Frank. Don and Sam were aware of the situation, but Salieri valued Tom's past contributions and forgave him. However, Salieri could no longer tolerate the independent actions of Polly and Tom, especially after their bank robbery. What happened next, you already know. Emotionality. Tommy is not one to openly display strong, deep emotions and feelings, although he is capable of experiencing them. He tends to drown his powerful emotions and impressions in alcohol, using avoidance as a psychological defense. Fortunately, Frank influences our hero and helps him solve problems in a more constructive way. Tom finds a woman to whom he is loyal and trustworthy. He does not bring problems or stories of dangerous assignments into their home. He expresses his love through faithful and respectable actions, as he is not naturally expressive with his emotions and feelings. Character. Thomas Angelo possesses several positive character traits, such as reliability. The former taxi driver usually doesn't let Don Salieri down, unless it involves carrying out a task that goes against his moral values, like killing someone he believes doesn't deserve it. Tom saves Sam's life early in the game, helps Polly complete a number of difficult missions, and protects those who can't defend themselves. Modesty. Before joining the Salieri family, he lived a humble life, not spending money on expensive clothing or flashy items. Naturally, the sudden exposure to wealth throws him off balance for a while, but he manages to pull himself together, as he wasn't spoiled as a child and knows how to live without money. With Frank as a mentor, he learns how to handle wealth wisely and finds someone who brings peace and harmony to his life, helping him stay away from alcohol and destructive behaviors. This trait prevents Tom from becoming a ruthless mafia member. Sense of justice. Tom can spare the lives of those he believes don't deserve death, when the punishment seems too cruel or unjust. Those who cause harm and truly deserve death, he eliminates without regret. I believe this very sense of justice also pushed Tom to rob a bank with Polly, as he felt they were being treated unfairly. Prudence. He doesn't rush into actions. This helps him plan his moves before carrying out complex tasks, many of which he handles alone. Even though Don Salieri is aware of Tom's missteps, he still entrusts him with highly risky and difficult missions that are nearly impossible to complete solo. I also believe Tom never takes direct violent action against Salieri because he is married to Sarah, Luigi's daughter, the lawyer bartender. Thanks to this cautious nature, Tom manages to leave the mafia and live a relatively peaceful life after imprisonment, enjoying family life. So once you are in the family, you are in for life, which can't be said for money or friends. Compassion. Tom helps anyone in need and is capable of forgiving others for their mistakes. This is especially evident in the bathroom scene, where he spares Michelle, remembering she is Sarah's friend. It's also hard for him to kill Frank, since Frank has a family and shares similar values. Tom forgives Frank's betrayal, handing over Salieri's ledgers, which contain proof of the family's criminal activities, to the police. Negative character traits. Suggestibility. Thomas is easily influenced by those around him, as he openly admits himself. He quickly starts wearing stylish and expensive clothing after seeing his friends do so, especially Sam. At one point, he nearly falls into alcohol addiction, but Frank's timely intervention and some distance from more reckless people help him recover. He is lucky to have met Sarah, who had a positive influence on him. Naivety. When joining the Salieri family, Tom believed he would be protected and enjoy stable wealth. He thought he'd remain just a taxi driver. And for a while, that's how it was, until he started being pulled into more complicated missions, especially after sparing Michelle and Frank, which were seen as missteps. Indecisiveness. Tom always takes a long time to make decisions and is hesitant when asked to carry out certain tasks by Don Salieri or his inner cycle. We see this in missions like the race, on the ship, and during Polly's bank heist planning. He is unable to quickly or decisively change the course of his life. He needs time to think everything through. If fate had intervened and forced him to rescue Salieri's men at gunpoint and then ask for help due to their proximity to the ambush, he would likely have been content working as a taxi driver for the rest of his days. Reservedness. If Tom had opened up to Sarah about his problems, I think he would have made fewer poor decisions. For example, if he had discussed the bank heist with her, she might have convinced him it was a bad idea and helped him find a way to understand Don Salieri's actions. After all, only a few people should know what's in the crates to avoid alarming those transporting and guarding such a valuable shipment. Who knows, Perhaps later, after a successful deal, Salieri would have generously rewarded his most loyal workers. Anyone with psychological struggles should talk openly with trusted and reliable people. Skills. Tom is an excellent driver, making him a valuable member of Don Salieri's family. He also knows the local terrain well. After receiving expert lessons from Ralph, he easily handles locks on any car, showing that Tom can adapt to changes and new tasks, even if he doesn't enjoy them. He is also skilled with weapons, working alongside experts like Pearlie and Sam. His strategic thinking helps him navigate difficult situations and often avoid direct conflict with numerous enemies. The ability to handle intense and prolonged physical and psychological stress during difficult missions demonstrates his strong physical attributes. His cleverness and analytical mindset help him successfully complete complex tasks, from winning races to eliminating large numbers of enemies. Today, Thomas Angelo could be a successful public transport driver or a personal chauffeur for a high-profile individual, where reliability and responsibility are valued. His empathy, resilience, integrity, intelligence, driving knowledge and experience would also make him an excellent instructor in a driving school that trains people from any profession. Emotional intelligence. Tom understands his emotions but is not inclined to express them outwardly. Being a person with a predominantly phlegmatic temperament, it's hard to provoke intense or vivid emotional reactions in him. He doesn't throw around words like loyalty, respect or love. Instead, he prefers to demonstrate these values through his actions and behavior. This is clearly seen in the mission's ordinary routine, where he saves his friends from danger, not abandoning them even at great personal risk. He faces a large group of gangsters alone, with barely any real combat experience in such extreme conditions. Perhaps it's the mix of unexpectedness, underestimations, beginner's luck, and the creative imagination of the gamer's writers that allows this heroic act to happen. Another example is the mission Sarah, where he must escort the bartender Luigi's daughter home. Recently, troublemakers in Salieri-controlled areas have become a real threat to her safety. Tom performs his task flawlessly, understanding the father's worries and showing empathy, kindness, sensitivity, and moral values. Tom manages his emotions quite well, but in critical moments, he is more likely to drown his problems in alcohol rather than open up to someone close, fearing to cause unnecessary worry or distress, or that others simply wouldn't understand him. Perhaps he tried to speak with Pearlie or Sam, but their emotional intelligence was at a different level. They probably never reflected on such existential issues, preferring to drink their troubles away in the company of women from the oldest profession. With that kind of environment, the former taxi driver had little choice but to do the same. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Fortunately, he later finds someone more experienced, Frank, who shares a similar emotional awareness. Frank understands Tom's issues and helps him work through them, offering valuable advice. As we can see, Tom's cycle of close friends is quite small. He doesn't need loud parties for fun or self-validation. He is a family man who values warmth and comfort at home. He doesn't want to share his psychological and moral struggles with Sarah, since he often has to deal with them on his own. Tom avoids burdening her with worry or fear for his safety. He empathizes deeply with his best friend, Pearlie, sincerely wishing for him to find a soulmate who can calm him and help him grow. He also shows compassion for Michelle, Frank, and Frank's family, choosing to spare their lives and simply instructing them to disappear without a trace. Being a family-oriented person himself, he recognizes their shared values. He knows that the act of mercy could have consequences in the MAFIA world, where the rules are different, but he worries more for his own family, his wife Sarah and their daughter, than for himself. Personality orientation. For Tom, the main driving force behind his actions is his family. This is made clear in his quote at the end of the game. "Everything I've done, good, bad, it was all for the family." I betrayed people I considered friends, took on heavy burdens. I spent 8 years alone, trying to find myself. He also mentions that most people strive for their dreams because of their families, no matter how unrealistic those dreams may seem. It is the family that keeps us from falling when we have no strength left. External material values don't interest him. He doesn't dress flashily, doesn't attend lavish parties in grand mansions, and doesn't flaunt expensive cars. He agrees to the bank robbery with Polly not out of a desire for wealth, but because he feels deceived and treated unfairly by Salieri. As we can recall, Tom initially refuses the idea Polly proposes to him and Sam. He also deeply values emotional relationships with those close to him. He cannot just kill his friend or his wife's friend on command, not without first having a conversation with them and trying to understand their side. Level of self-control. In my opinion, Tom has an average level of self-control. In peaceful everyday life, he is capable of restraining his emotions, for example, listening to passengers' complaints while driving his taxi. However, in more critical situations, this becomes harder for him. After prolonged psychological stress and committing a series of mass killings, he doesn't find a better way to cope than drowning his problems in alcohol. Perhaps the game's writer didn't show everything they could or wanted to. Overall, Tom is able to control his emotions, and he tends to think before acting. However, in life-threatening situations, he is capable of making quick decisions. Information about his self-control was also mentioned in the video, so we won't repeat it here. Self-esteem. I believe Tom's self-esteem is portrayed as flexible and unstable. At the beginning of the game, he appears to have low self-esteem. Despite his driving skills and leadership qualities, which later become evident throughout the story, he works as a simple local taxi driver in Lost Heaven. He puts the needs of others above his own and doesn't believe he deserves a better future or higher earnings. He grew up in an ordinary, decent working-class family, though not much is known about them. However, it's clear he possesses strong human qualities such as reliability, responsibility, integrity, and politeness. According to online sources, he was raised in warmth and love by his mother and father, and had an older brother and sister. Tom understands these emotions and saw healthy relationships modeled in his childhood, which helps him build good relationships with both men and women. His low self-esteem may have also prevented him from finding a partner, thinking that as a taxi driver, he couldn't provide a proper life for a family. His reaction to receiving a large sum of money from Salieri also reflects this. He felt he didn't deserve it. He focused only on the amount needed to cover the damage to the car, not considering his efforts or the risk to his life. Later, after joining the Salieri family, more people begin to respect him. He wins races, his popularity and attention, especially from women, increase, and so does his self-esteem. He now has the power to choose who to help, who to refuse, and access to more entertainment and quality alcohol. Despite the rise in popularity, he doesn't fall for female attention. He likely already had a clear image of his future wife in mind and knew what traits he wanted her to have. His decency and loyalty to Sarah, the bartender Luigi's daughter who becomes his wife, prevent him from cheating, a clear sign that he doesn't need romantic flings to boost his ego. These facts also indicate that Tom has a healthy level of self-esteem, lacks narcissistic traits, and demonstrates emotional maturity. By the end of the game, he remains vulnerable, fully understanding the harm he has caused and the consequences he may face. His actions could hurt not only him but also his family, which is why he confesses everything to the police in hopes of a reduced sentence. As we can see, his initial success as a member of the Salieri family boosts his self-esteem, but in the end, guilt over his past actions and anxiety for the future, especially for his family, weigh heavily on him. I believe that by the end of the game, his self-esteem might be even lower than it was at the beginning, when he was still just a taxi driver. Personality strengths. Tom is decent, reliable, persistent and brave, especially when the fate of his family is at stake. These are the traits that usually define successful people. He is quick-witted, actively listens to others, and is capable of critical thinking and planning based on gathered information before executing a task. He is a skilled driver, adapts well to new environments, and can learn unfamiliar skills. These character traits distinguish Tom from other members of the Mafia. His intellectual and human qualities help him earn respect among people. I believe these very traits and his level of ability helped Tom survive for as long as he did, which is rare for someone involved in organized crime. Personality weaknesses. Tom's altruism hinders his ability to function as a Mafia member. His selfless actions eventually come back to haunt him. Once Salieri learns of them, he sends Tom on missions that are practically suicide as a way to balance out past mistakes. His indecisiveness and tendency to hesitate are also weaknesses. He didn't join the Mafia of his own free will and initially carried out armed missions reluctantly. He lacked the resolve to refuse damaging Morello's car near the bar and couldn't say no to Don Salieri. Later, as a full-fledged member of the family, he had no choice. He did his job and got paid. Tom's anxiety and suggestibility led to Polly convincing him to rob a bank, even though Tom initially rejected the idea and had also declined to steal a few valuable jewels from the cigarette crates. I also believe that one of Tom's weaknesses is his inability to share his true emotions and thoughts with Sarah. I think she could have persuaded him that Polly's bank heist idea was far too risky and unreasonable. Maybe she would have even introduced Polly to one of her friends so he'd have less time for foolish plans. How could Tommy improve his personality? It would be beneficial for Tommy to learn how to express his genuine emotions. Most likely, he was raised in a family that held the belief that men shouldn't cry, that they must endure everything in silence, and that showing weaknesses is not acceptable for a man. This kind of upbringing contributed to Tommy drowning his problems in alcohol. If he hadn't had that honest conversation with Frank in the car, one can only wonder what the consequences might have been. Tommy should also work on establishing personal boundaries and learning how to say no. You can help everyone in this world, and not everyone will like you. You can help everyone in this world, and not everyone will like you. That's why it's important to listen to yourself and understand what you truly want in life. Additionally, it would be helpful for Tommy to work on his self-esteem. In this case, psychologists would likely advise him to study body language and choose more confident postures. There is evidence that by physically adapting open and confident body positions, our minds also begin to develop those traits. You can learn more about this in the work of psychologist Amy Cuddy, who also gave a successful TED Talk on this topic. He could also benefit from improving his relationship with other people's opinions and learning how to accept compliments and praise directed toward him. We can also see that Tommy lacks clear goals or a sense of purpose in life. Or perhaps he had some hidden ones, but the game's writers did not show them to us. We won't go into the topic of goal setting here, since in the game he seemingly has none, which makes it easy for him to fall under the influence of external circumstances. As we can see, not everything depends on the individual. External factors often play a major role in shaping our destiny, as Tommy's Angelo's story shows us. Thank you all for your attention. Subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. Write in the comment under the video whether you think Tommy Angelo had another choice. Could he have influenced his own fate?